My name is Robert Hansen, and this is my first YouTube channel, My Life in Poetry! Okay, that was melodramatic. It also ignored the subtitle, a pseudo-autobiography. What in the world does that mean? Well, if it was an autobiography, all the poems would be about me, and they would be reflective of the things that have happened in my life, and I'd be telling my life story through verse form. I'm not going to be doing that. It'd be boring. There's a little bit of that because I do have poems that are like that, but not very many. That's why it's not an autobiography. So, why is it like an autobiography? Because that's what pseudo means. It means like something, but not quite the same. So, my poetry can be about anything. And it ranges a very wide range of topics. But it always reflects what I'm learning at that time, what I've been experiencing at that time, what I've observed, how I felt. The things that were going on in my life shape what my poetry becomes. So, for example, the first poems that I wrote, back when I was a teenager, back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, way back then, well, most of them are ballads. And the reason why they're ballads is because I knew nothing about poetry. But I did listen to a lot of music. I listened to a lot of country and rock and roll songs that were written in ballad form. So that shaped the nature of my poetry, but not the content of it. The content came from what I was, kind of obsessed with at that time, and that was Dungeons and Dragons. So I wrote a lot of ballads about warriors and wizards and dragons and things like that. And later on, I integrated these ballads into a long poem called A Bard Out of Time. It's available on a lot of ebook retailers. Okay. So, that's one aspect of how it's autobiographical. It's reflecting what I'm learning, experiencing, and doing, and feeling at the time that I wrote it. So those first poems, they reflect that teenage year obsession with Dungeons and Dragons. Later on, when I started college, and I learned about the sonnet and found a way to actually write them, which took about a year, I became obsessed with them. And of course, sonnets are supposed to be about love, right? So there's going to be a playlist coming along called Women Arg, which are about a lot of women that I encountered when I was a beginning college student. And then later on again, I finally reached the point where I learned about poetry. I was a graduate student studying creative writing, and I took some poetry workshops, and I found out about things like enjambment, off-rhyme, free verse, and a lot of other things, and that transformed my poetry. Now, I don't consider myself to be among the contemporary poets, because, well, I don't really like contemporary poetry very well. I don't respond to it in the way that most people do. So my poetry is going to tend to be different from what a lot of people might expect it to be. And to give you a sense of what it's like, I'm going to read one of my early poems to introduce you to what kind of autobiographical element you might find in my poetry. and also to give you a sense of where the real autobiographic element is going to come from. Because it's going to come from my discussion of what inspired the poem, why I wrote it, what was influencing me at the time, and things of that sort. But just so you don't get too out of sorts about, oh, he's going to do a lot of readings and commenting and all of that. I'm only going to select some of the poems for that process. Okay? So, here is a small press magazine. It's called Feelings, America's beautiful poetry magazine. And it accepted a number of my poems back in the mid-1990s. So I had started college by then. But I was still writing a lot of ballads. And they accepted a poem of mine called Nerves. And I'm going to read that, and I'm going to put the text of the poem into the description, and I would encourage you to pause the video and read it for yourself to see what the poem is about and to think about how you would read it to someone else. What kind of voice would you give to it? How would it reflect you rather than how it reflects me? Okay? So this is from the spring issue in 1996. Got to put my eyes on so I can read. I've gotten to that point in my life where I have to have reading glasses. Okay, Nerves. It starts inside my belly like something bad I ate. My heartbeat pitter-patters at a most alarming rate. My breathing is too rapid, too shallow, incomplete. My palms have gotten clammy, and chills run through my feet. My body seems to lose control. My hormones come undone. My instinct is to flee from here. My instinct is to run. But I force myself to stop, to settle down my mind. And then I stand to give my speech, one word at a time. Okay, I bet you didn't read it that way. But if you did, get out of my head. There's not room for more than one person up there. But this is autobiographical in the sense that I, like most people, have experienced nerves. And I've felt nervous on many occasions. I'm nervous now. That's why I chose this poem, to share with you a poem reflective of what I'm experiencing, because this is my first YouTube video. It's my first YouTube channel. I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, I sort of do, because I got past the stage of nerves a long time ago, at least in a lot of different areas. Now, this was written back when I was a college student. I had just started college. And when I first started college, I hated doing speeches. I hated getting up in front of the class and talking about something that I didn't really know very much about at all. So here I am, I have to give presentations or speeches on topics that are assigned that I just don't know very much about. That's where the nerves came from. And I remember one time in particular. It was a Tuesday, Thursday evening course. So I'm in class on Tuesday, and she assigns each one of us to teach a part of the next chapter on that Thursday. So I had 2 days. The problem was, I was working as a roofer at the time, and the next day, I basically put in a 12, 14-hour day at work, and I just did not have time to do any preparation other than reading the chapter. And so I have to give the speech or presentation or teach this part of the chapter to the class, and I completely bombed it because I couldn't remember things. I didn't have any time to prepare, and it was unfair of the instructor to put us in that position. And I can say that because the irony of this is that after college, I became a teacher, and I was standing in front of the class presenting information to them all the time. And so I overcame my nerves about giving speeches. But I did so because when I was teaching what I knew very well. And I was prepared for it, and I could respond to student questions. But that didn't eliminate the nerves. The first class that I taught as a graduate student, I was a nervous wreck for half the term. And then one day, I just decided, the heck with this. I'm not going to feel this way anymore. And I accepted that I was going to make mistakes, that I would sometimes look foolish, that I would be doing things that weren't quite right. And I was okay with that. So here I am. I'm in another situation where I'm nervous. But I have a lot of experience to draw upon to help me to get through those nerves. And hopefully you enjoyed this video, and you'll enjoy some of the others that I have. I'm going to be doing more readings than anything else. And just so you know, I'm not going to give them kind of weird voices all the time. In fact, it depends on what the poem is about and whether it's conducive for that. Most of them, I'm going to just read them like you would normally expect. That's going to end my video. If you like it, press the button for it. Subscribe to the video or the channel if you feel like doing it. And that's it.